Hi there, welcome to Melted Stone, the spot for stories that grab you and won't let you go. If you love drama, surprises, and moments that make you say, no way, you're in the right place. Subscribe and dive into tales full of twists, bold moves, and endings you'll remember. This is Melted Stone, hit the bell, and let's get the story rolling.
They're not just cheating, they're cheating with each other.
Holy crap, Reddit, this is still surreal. I'm a critical care nurse, married 18 years to Bonnie, live next door to my sister Susan, and her husband Rich in identical houses my family built on our ancestral land in Louisiana. Our kids are basically siblings. My Jason, 17, and Diarra, 16, Susan's Robert, 16, Dave and Cindy, both 16. Rich and Bonnie work together at an insurance company. This nightmare started when I got an anonymous email from pissedoff999@email.com with subject, "You should know your wife is cheating. Here's proof." Attached was a video of my wife Bonnie fucking Rich in some apartment. Multiple camera angles, crystal clear HD footage. I was sitting on my patio drinking beer at 2 p.m., completely blindsided. I immediately called Susan over. "Isn't it early for a drink, Rob? It's only 2 p.m., she said, noticing my beer. "I'm off for the weekend and in the mood," I replied. She knew my nursing schedule allowed frequent time off. "I found out Bonnie is cheating on me," I said, voice shaking. "Are you sure? Maybe it's a cruel joke?" she asked. I showed her the video. Her face went white. "Wait, if Bonnie's cheating and she's always with Rich, no way. She's cheating with my husband? They're cheating on us with each other?" Susan went ballistic. "That cheating cow! Doesn't she know you'll destroy her and her lover? If Rich ever cheated on me, I'd destroy him." When she realized it was Rich in the video, she turned red and tears welled up. "I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you gently," I said, hugging her. I've had a couple hours to calm down enough not to grab a weapon. We decided to be smart. Act normal that night. Greet them with kisses like yesterday, then get legal advice tomorrow. "At least we know we haven't contracted any STDs, I joked to lighten the mood. Susan laughed. "Hell no, I didn't even consider that. Just for the record, I'm not doing anything with Rich. I just got my period." "This will last until we confront those cheaters. Rich isn't getting anything from me." We agreed not to tell the kids yet. They'd left for our parents' place that morning in Jason's car without arguments. The kids, Jason, Rob, Dave, Cindy, and Diarra, had spent the entire summer together, more like siblings than cousins, especially during the pandemic. Rich had been a good father and uncle, involved in education and activities. I handled outdoor fun, camping, fishing, hunting in our backyard, then gradually deeper into the swamp. 3 weeks ago, I'd rearranged my schedule for 6 days off. We took the girls in one boat, boys in another, traveled slowly to avoid snags and shallow water, everyone taking turns driving. We spent a week at the old fish camp, bonding as a family. Apparently, Bonnie and Rich didn't value that family unity. That night, I met Bonnie at the door, hugging and kissing her. I half expected her to pull away, but she kissed back normally. I couldn't detect any aftershave, just her perfume. Despite my anger, I told her dinner was ready. Susan and I had planned takeout. Neither wanted to cook. We joked about poisoning our spouses, but it was just venting, not real. Next morning, I watched Bonnie get into Rich's car. I called Susan. "How'd it go?" "No problem," she replied. "Any idea where they're going tonight?" Susan, always a loose cannon, needed to vent about our feelings. At 10 a.m., we were in Jake's office. Jake's a divorce attorney, Susan's boss, an old friend who agreed to represent us both. "Are you sure you have video showing both parties?" he asked. We assured him yes, but didn't show it yet. "As long as you have evidence of infidelity, you're good. Your prenuptial agreements are strict." My father had insisted on legal opinion before I signed the prenup. The cheater only gets 20% of joint assets, including savings and investments, no provisions for personal income accounts. "What if Bonnie has money she didn't tell me about?" I asked. "Common property," Jake replied. "Our homes were protected. Gifted before marriage, but improvements like solar panels might be considered joint property." "She only gets 20% because she's a cheater, right?" I asked. "I'm willing to give her that." Jake grinned. "These are the games we'll play. The important thing is your ironclad prenups. As long as you prove infidelity, keep video copies hidden and confidential. If they sue over the video being public, it depends on how it was obtained. Be careful. We decided to serve divorce papers Thursday at noon. Jake convinced us it would save costs and keep them busy with financial statements all weekend, increasing their legal fees. Initially, we wanted to serve them in person to watch reactions, but Jake advised against it. Instead, we'd serve them at work in front of colleagues. After leaving Jake's office, we went to the bank transferring money into new accounts in our names only, ensuring we had statements for all accounts. We paid off and canceled credit cards, opening new ones in our names only. I checked email and found 3 more videos of Bonnie and Rich. I thanked the sender and asked how they got the videos, expressing concern about them going public. Secretly, I wished they would be released, but knew we had to be cautious to avoid lawsuits. An hour later, I received an email with address, 9203 Victoria Street, apartment 2011. I visited and convinced the woman at the counter to give me information by implying the tenant was involved in criminal activities. The apartment was rented by the insurance company where Rich and Bonnie worked, with Rich's signature on the contract. I wondered how the company would react finding out they were paying for Rich's affair. Bonnie called me at 12:30, furious about the divorce papers. I calmly told her I knew she'd found someone else and was setting her free. Bonnie angrily denied the affair, accusing me of believing rumors and threatening to take everything in divorce, including custody, child support, and half our assets. She suggested Rich could move in with her and I could live with Susan. "Go ahead, get yourself a lawyer," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. "By the way, the girls are packing your things. Susan told the boys to pack Rich's stuff. Everything will be in front of the house for you to pick up this afternoon. We got a restraining order and changed the locks this morning. You'll have to find another place to stay until court decides." Bonnie started yelling, so I hung up. 10 minutes later, Susan texted, "Backyard. Bring your cooler, make sure it's full." That fool Rich had tried to blame it on secretary's gossip. Susan told him Bonnie did the same. He denied everything, said we shouldn't believe it. She told him to get his stuff and call first because she had a loaded weapon. Jake arrived with 2 sheriff's deputies to keep things from getting out of hand. Having deputies present was smart. Rich might provoke me and I could end up in jail for assault. We gathered the kids earlier and I told them what was happening. Surprisingly, they seemed to expect it and started packing Bonnie and Rich's stuff. The kids took it surprisingly well. Maybe shock, or they didn't realize how it would affect them. My phone beeped with email from Pissed Off 999. Susan showed me how to open an audio file. "Can you believe Robert and Susan served us?" Bonnie said. "They must have found out somehow. I can't believe this. Just last night, Robert was so affectionate." "Relax," Rich replied. "They don't know anything. Someone must have gossiped about us having lunch or driving together. We need to deny everything. If they go through with this divorce, we'll make them pay. I know a lawyer who will help us. Just don't admit anything. Act like everything you say is being recorded." After listening, Susan and I were silent. "Okay, let them think we don't know anything," I said. Rich mentioned they'd been planning something for a long time. We needed to ensure we were protected if they did something illegal. The children were silent as we entered the house. Dira and Cindy were packing Bonnie's clothes into suitcases, then garbage bags. I asked them to take pictures of luggage, planning to apply its value to Bonnie's share of assets. Next door, the boys were almost done. Rich had fewer clothes, and they were stuffing them into bags rather than folding. I smiled watching Rob stuff a $2,000 suit into a bag. They had my back. Bonnie and Rich arrived with Boudreaux Landry, a bully from elementary school who was now their lawyer. "Hey, Robert," Boudreaux smirked. "I hear you're having trouble with your wife and son-in-law. No big deal. You don't seriously think my boy Rich is with your wife, do you?" "That's the story," I said. Jake moved closer. "Bonnie accused me of taking all money from our bank account." "Yes, and I have statements showing original amounts." "You'll get what you're owed." She didn't know her credit cards no longer worked. "Where's my jewelry?" Bonnie asked. This was major contention. I'd bought her high-quality jewelry worth at least $25K, most locked in my safe. I'd taken pictures for insurance purposes, wanting proof of ownership. Boudreaux started arguing but stopped when I explained I took pictures to prevent jewelry going missing. After consulting with Boudreaux, Bonnie calmly removed her jewelry and handed it to me. "Where am I supposed to go?" Bonnie asked. I nearly suggested her love nest on Victoria Street, but held back. I shrugged, realizing my emotions had shifted. Days ago, I loved this woman. Now I felt nothing but anger and coldness. Bonnie and Rich finally left with Boudreaux following. Jake smiled. I hope so. We have someone following them. If we reveal the apartment now, it will help our negotiations. Instead, they went to Holiday Inn near their office. I cheerfully helped them move things inside. That night, my phone beeped with another email. Susan followed me to computer. Okay, guys, Boudreaux's voice said. Someone's probably following Robert. Stay at motel and get room with 2 beds. Make sure both beds look used. Investigator can bribe maid to check. We'll say you're sharing room to save money. It was embarrassing when my card was declined, Rich said. Good thing I took extra cash. What's next? I'll call credit card company to open new account. Robert thought about jewelry, Boudreaux continued. He likely has a list. Protect any hidden assets. Legally, they're community property, but what Robert and Susan don't know about, they can't claim. Don't hide too much. You might get caught. If you have secret bank account, make sure it holds only small amount. Offshore accounts are better. You don't want to be caught lying under oath. Now what? Bonnie asked. They can find our Baton Rouge accounts. Screw that, Rich exclaimed. We'll fly to Cayman Islands and open account there. Make the room look used. Wet tissues, ruffle towels, wet shower, used shampoo. I'll call office and say we're off tomorrow. Do they have secret bank accounts? I wondered where the money came from. Bonnie and I got $50 weekly for travel cash and reviewed credit card statements monthly. I'd told the apartment woman Rich was into pills and cocaine as a bluff, but now wondered if he was hiding something more. Next morning, I drove to Jake's office, having arranged jewelry appraisal and firearms estimate. Susan went to work briefly, and we met at Jake's, where I played audio files. I'd like to know who's sending these, Jake said. How they bugged Bonnie and Rich in hotel is beyond me. Private investigator couldn't have done it that fast. We might need judge's order to find their bank account balances, which could mean hiring investigator. Susan and I shook our heads when asked if we'd noticed missing money. If you want this divorce quickly, we'll move fast. Next week, we'll meet with Bonnie, Rich, and their lawyer to list assets, then go before judge. Louisiana's Napoleonic laws make divorce easier, especially with proven infidelity. Jake added, Boudreaux called demanding you release extra 30% of money you withdrew. I reminded him the prenup states cheater only gets 20% of assets. He demanded proof of infidelity, which we'll present in court. It was amusing to see him flounder. I worked that weekend. Head nurse Sharon couldn't cover shifts. What if I start coughing and need COVID test? I asked. Idiot, Sharon said affectionately. Yes, I could fill in. You have vacation and sick days saved up. Take emergency vacation if needed. How about I work this weekend and start vacation Monday? Really? Thank you. I owe you one. I'll start your sick leave then vacation. Take as much as you need and keep me posted. Working was welcome relief. Weekends were busy, but ICU staff had to stay alert. I was surprised to see my father-in-law, Dr. Pran, waiting at nurse's station. Hello, Dr. Pran, what brings you to ICU? Cut the crap and let's talk, he hissed. In the head nurse's office, he asked, what's this about kicking Bonnie out? John, I found out Bonnie is having an affair. She's cheating on me with my sister's husband. I'm dealing with family crisis. It was rumors started by gossipers at office, John said. They commute together and often have lunch. She told us rumors about affair with her boss were just that, rumors. I decided to be open despite our history. I haven't told anyone except my lawyer and sister. I haven't even told Bonnie and Rich everything I know, let alone the kids. I have proof, video and audio files. This isn't just rumor. Dr. Pran looked shocked. What are you going to do? He asked softly, already knowing the answer. What can I do? I'm trying to protect the kids, but I can't just ignore this. John, what would you do if Bonnie had proof I was cheating? I want your head on a platter. I'd help her bury you, he said honestly, tears in his eyes. What about Jason and Diarra? How are they handling it? They're talking more with their cousins than with Susan or me. They seem to be holding up, but they're angry with Bonnie. I told them they need to talk to her, but I don't know if they have. I'm not getting involved in this. I thought you were overreacting to gossip, John said softly. My first priority is protecting Jason and Diarra. I'll help Bonnie with her physical needs. I don't excuse her behavior, but if you have irrefutable proof, I accept it. Stay in touch. You're an honorable man. He walked out, shoulders slumped. So he knows his daughter isn't so virtuous, Susan said when I got home. We need to tell Mom and Dad soon. How about tomorrow night after your shift? We don't want them mad at us for keeping them in dark. The meeting wasn't pleasant. My father only asked if I had proof, and I assured him I did. Like John, he was more concerned about kids than us, which I understood. In our culture, children came first, and adults dealt with consequences of their actions. I received no additional information from my mysterious benefactor, which was fine. I had 4 explicit videotapes showing Bonnie and Rich, along with audio recordings proving their long-term affair. I didn't need more proof. Bonnie not only cheated, but financially defrauded the family. The mystery of how she saved enough to fly to Cayman Islands infuriated me. She was a thief and fraud. Jake began investigating their accounts using Social Security numbers, ensuring we could subpoena statements if money was missing. Some questions were answered Wednesday when we met to list total assets. Court-appointed financial arbitrator reviewed paperwork. I provided annual salary and Bonnie's pay stub. Bonnie made $5,000/month, and my salary varied with overtime, but we earned similar amounts annually. Jake said this would allow minimal alimony even without prenup and infidelity proof. Monday, the auditor requested income tax returns for past few years. I found them in our desk while Susan had to get copies from her accountant. She was upset Rich hadn't filed them with other documents. She knew Rich earned about $80K compared to her $50K and was pleased when Jake said she'd likely get sizable maintenance payment. Boudreaux entered conference room with sullen Rich and Bonnie. Bonnie glared at me, her anger surprising. I expected apology, but she remained silent, likely on Boudreaux's advice. Rich struggled to maintain neutral expression. Court officer introduced himself and assistant, who took notes and kept electronic record. Let's get started. Your attorneys have forms confirming statements today are true and may be admitted into evidence. Our goal is compiling list of all assets and income for judge to review. We won't discuss prenuptial agreements today. Listing automobiles, firearms, boat, and household goods took only minutes. Even Bonnie's jewelry wasn't a problem. I had it appraised, and its value exceeded my truck and firearms combined. Boudreaux insisted solar system be considered separately and prepared documents stating its value and depreciation. Jake reviewed it, made notes, and nodded. 401k accounts were listed. I asked why, thinking they should be excluded. No, they count since you've been married over 10 years, but in your case, values are similar, so it's not big issue, Jake replied. We reviewed checking and savings accounts. Jake entered statements showing I'd taken 80% of funds and did same for Susan and Rich. It's straightforward, said the auditor. Mr. Jacobs, there's big discrepancy between Mrs. Fontano's salary estimate and her tax returns for last 2 years. Rich tensed up. I've estimated each of you earned $60K, I explained. I multiplied her monthly salary by 12. Yes, but for last 2 years, Mrs. Fontano reported income of $140K annually, the auditor said. What the hell? I exclaimed, making assistant frown. Didn't you look at your tax return? He asked. I shook my head, explaining Bonnie and Rich had new accountant handle our taxes electronically. I just looked at small refund we got. Bonnie turned purple. Her salary includes $80K in bonuses each year, Mr. Jacobs said. Mr. Jenkins got $110K in bonuses each year, he continued. Susan asked how much extra that was net. About $80K a year, totaling about $160K. So, where's the money, Bonnie? I demanded. Is that why you went to Cayman Islands last Friday to hide it? Bonnie angrily asked how I found out. Was I following her? She composed herself. No, I didn't need to, I said. You did it yourself. You and Susan insisted the kids install phone locator apps. Jason and Diarra used it to track you when you didn't answer Friday. They saw you reappear on your coast, suggesting you were in Cayman. They checked your office Monday and saw you weren't home, but in Baton Rouge, likely transferring money into new accounts. Bonnie and Rich looked astonished. Jake spoke up. Boudreaux, we can get statements to prove those account balances. It's illegal to hide money offshore to avoid distributing joint assets. Your clients flew to Cayman right after hiring you. Hiding assets like this is felony. Bonnie began crying, and Rich looked scared. Boudreaux's face turned pale, then red. I didn't do anything like that, he declared, looking at Recorder and Jacobs' assistant typing away. Susan asked Jake, can we get them to return the money? Jake nodded. Yes, we'd get our share and end. Even if we have to confiscate their paychecks, 80% of those accounts will become yours once infidelity is proven in court. But there's no money left, exclaimed Bonnie. It disappeared when we tried to transfer it. Rich tried to silence her, but she continued. I think you stole it, she accused me. I looked at her incredulously. I didn't know for sure about the money until recently. I suspected it, but had no idea of amounts. What are you claiming now? Did you spend it all or lose it? She explained they tried to transfer money electronically at bank in Grand Cayman, but transfer was denied. They went to Baton Rouge to investigate. Online statement showed transfer, but no routing number or account details. Provide me with bank information for Baton Rouge account, and I will investigate, said Mr. Jacobs. I can get results faster and enter them into court documents. Rich and Bonnie left room looking dejected. Susan wondered where money went, and I shrugged, sharing her thoughts. Our case was expedited, likely because Bonnie and Rich begged Boudreaux to speed things up. They stayed at Holiday Inn for a week before moving to an apartment on Victoria Street. It amused me thinking about them in their love nest, likely struggling with cash flow and Boudreaux's fees. All 5 children insisted on attending hearing, and I agreed since they were affected by divorce. Jake explained what to expect. Judge Goody conducted hearings semi-formally, sitting at table with us. Jake, Susan, and I sat to Boudreaux's left with Rich and Bonnie across from us. Kids sat in gallery. Following Jake's lead, we stood as Judge entered. He waved for us to sit. I handle family cases in semi-formal setting. Sit and speak when I address you. Raise your hand if you want to speak. Be on your best behavior and respectful. If you piss me off, I'll throw you out. Understood? The kids managed to hold back laughter at his last statement. Well, I've reviewed both cases. Normally, we treat these as separate matters, but evidence and parties involved are same here. Sibling is accused of infidelity. In Louisiana, while infidelity alone isn't grounds for divorce, there are prenuptial agreements that affect property distribution in such cases. Therefore, I'll need irrefutable evidence of infidelity. First, there were discrepancies regarding monetary assets with allegations of hiding funds. My investigation shows Mrs. Fontano and Mr. Jenkins have bank accounts in Baton Rouge with balances of $120K and $160K respectively. Entire balance was transferred from these accounts Monday before divorce petition was filed. Correct passwords and security questions were used, indicating transfers were made by Mrs. Fontano and Mr. Jenkins or someone they authorized. Further investigation revealed money was split evenly among 5 accounts belonging to their children. Jason and Deara Fontano, and Robert, Dave, and Cynthia Jenkins. These transfers are legal under Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. Accounts were set up years ago, likely for college or income in event of parents' passing. I was stunned. Why was Bonnie making such fuss if she'd given money to her children? Judge continued, parents showed responsibility, if not remorse, by giving money to their children. Such deposits are non-refundable unless fraud is proven. Does anyone have proof of fraud? I was thrilled. While I would have liked my 80%, knowing money was divided among children was satisfying. Rich and Bonnie looked shocked, suspecting we'd outsmarted them. When Judge Goody asked if we had proof of fraud, we all shook our heads and said, "No, Your Honor." They seemed terrified of possible charges for hiding money overseas. Next matter is establishment of custody of minor children, Judge said. My daughter Deara raised her hand. Yes, Your Honor. I read that children 15 and older can choose which parent to live with. In some states, yes. In Louisiana, I consider children's opinions after speaking to them privately, Judge Goody replied. Deara stood and stated, I don't need to talk privately. My mother cheated on my father and our entire family. I want to live with my dad. Jason stood up and agreed. Robert, Dave, and Cindy also stood, stating they wanted to live with their mother for same reason. My heart raced as I squeezed Susan's hand under table. I will consider your wishes, Judge Goody said with half smile, but it hasn't yet been established that there was, as you put it, treason. Deara raised her hand again. I also read that 16-year-old can petition court for emancipation, and 17-year-olds can leave home without petition. Yes, Judge replied. 17-year-old rule is old law for young men wanting to enlist in military without parental consent. For 16-year-old to petition for emancipation, they must be able to support themselves. Is that clear? Deara nodded. I have college fund with another $56K added to it, plus what my parents and grandparents contributed. Cindy stood up. Me too. Collectively, we have plenty of money to live on our own for a long time. Her brother Dave stood and smiled. Me too. We could rent a nice place together. Jason and Rob stood up, saying if they pulled their money, all five could live fine on their own. I glanced at Judge, who seemed to suppress laugh. Let me guess. If I don't go along with your wishes, you'll all petition for emancipation or leave on your own. The five heads nodded. Sit down, he commanded. I'll consider what you said. There's allegation of infidelity in this case which affects prenuptial agreement and property distribution, so I'm going to ask for evidence of infidelity. Jake stood up. Your Honor, I have these pictures of Richard Jenkins and Bonnie Fontano together. Boudreaux objected. Anyone can alter photos. I have a picture of me shaking hands with President and another of us playing golf made by my son as joke. Defense counsel hasn't identified source of this evidence. Judge Goody looked at Jake, then at Susan and me. Jake nodded for me to respond. Your Honor, evidence came from anonymous source. I received several video and audio files and took these screenshots from one of videos. I have full video on DVD and thumb drive. I looked at Rich and Bonnie, who appeared shocked and agitated, shaking their heads in disbelief. Judge Goody observed their reactions, noting their purple faces in clear distress. Okay, do I need to reproduce file Mr. Fontano provided, or do all parties agree that infidelity occurred? Judge Goody asked. Boudreaux wanted to see footage, but when Bonnie and Rich quickly pleaded with Judge not to show video, he backtracked. Could you spare a minute for my clients, Your Honor? After consulting with them, he reluctantly said, we agree with plaintiff's claims. Well, in that case, I will announce my verdict, said Judge Goody. Since all parties agree infidelity occurred, marriage contracts will be honored in each case. Susan and I were awarded 80% of community property. Judge Goody suggested we discuss actual distribution with our attorneys to avoid court involvement in details. For custodial parents, I grant Robert Fontano full custody of Jason and Dara Fontano, and Susan Jenkins custody of Cynthia, Robert, and David Jenkins as requested. Non-custodial parents have full visitation rights. Legally, divorce will be finalized in 6 months. Increased incomes require Bonnie to pay me $1,000/month and Rich to pay Susan $2,000/month for next 3 years. Each dependent child will receive $500/month until they turn 18. Jake said payments were minimal and suggested we could appeal, but I decided against it, and Susan followed my lead. After Judge ended hearing, we left. Jake said he'd arrange meeting to work out property distribution details. I told kids to go home, change, and wait for me for family meeting. Susan and I walked to back of courtroom where my father was waiting. So, when did you figure it out, Dad? I asked. Susan looked puzzled. It hit me when Diara and Cindy made those comments about the video, I said to Susan. Pissed off 999 is a personality the kids invented. Susan's mouth dropped open. No. Yes, Dad said. I figured it out a few days ago when I saw old credit card bill. Jason and Rob asked me 2 months ago for credit card to plan something special for your anniversary. They promised to reimburse me about $500. Statement showed purchase from electronics company. Initially, I didn't pay attention, but when I called company, they revealed kids bought cell phone bugs. The kids spent $500 on spy devices? I asked. Yes, apparently they were expensive. Dad didn't know where they got video cameras. He'd followed me home to find out more. All 5 children were waiting in living room. They fell silent as we walked in. Go to kitchen and sit down, I said. Susan grabbed 3 beers, handing one to Dad and me. Jason and Rob held out their hands, grinning. You may be old enough to be spies, but not old enough to drink, I said. They shrugged, knowing I wasn't angry. Okay, who wants to start? Let's begin at beginning, Dara began. It all started when Cindy and I stopped by my mom's office and she wasn't there. Neither was Uncle Rich. This was around time they began phase 2 of COVID lockdown. We thought we could get money from one of them to see movie. Receptionists said they were out and had left long ago. It was well past lunchtime, so we decided to track them. You know we have locator feature my mom insisted on installing on our phones. It showed they were at strange address, so we checked it out. It was apartment building. When we arrived, we saw Uncle Rich's car and waited. They came out later, walking hand in hand and smiling. That got us thinking, so we started tracking where they went over next few days. For 3 days straight, they returned to same place and stayed for about hour and a half each time. Sometimes they went there late at night after work, but before going home. We told boys about it, Rob continued. We searched internet and found bugs you can insert into cell phones after downloading app. It works like continuous phone call in background and doesn't interfere with regular calls. It does drain battery bit faster. It transmits all sounds around phones so you can eavesdrop. We talked Pop into letting us use his credit card to buy them. Sorry we lied a bit, Pop. Installing bugs and app on their phones was easy. We took turns checking them and eavesdropping on conversations. We recorded anything interesting to share later. So that's clear with audio recordings, but how did you get video and find out which apartment they used? I asked. We looked at their keys. They both had key marked 2011. That's not their office number, so Jason copied his mom's key. We went into apartment couple times and looked around. We decided we needed cameras, Dara explained. So we bought few and small transmitter, added Dave. The boy was excited about technology, not noticing he was describing end of several marriages and breakup of 2 families. Cameras were motion sensitive, so they didn't burn too many batteries. We hid receiver under couch. Receiver got information from cameras and transmitted it to our receiver. We recorded it. It seemed simple. So you took video of Bonnie and Rich doing it. You also recorded audio files and sent some to me. I spoke carefully. These were my kids, my nephews and nieces. I couldn't ruin my relationship with them, but there was another issue. Money. Dad, when Cindy and I first looked at that apartment, I realized our mom was gone, Diarra stated. Well, not gone, but not back to where our family used to be. They had clothes stashed away and Mom had some outfits I recognized. She had makeup kit, towels, washcloths too. We knew what they were doing. They'd work out, clean up, then come home to you and Aunt Sue like nothing happened. We were all furious. They weren't just cheating you and Aunt Sue, they were cheating us. Now about the money. The secret bank accounts were side issue, Cindy said. When we looked around apartment, we found some bank account papers. There were instructions on how to access it online. It took a while to find actual accounts. We even spent time in Dad and Aunt Bonnie's offices, peeking in on them a couple times. Receptionists let us in to wait for them. She giggled. We looked through a bunch of folders and finally found one in bottom drawer of Dad's desk with some applications. Then we looked in Aunt Bonnie's office and found more papers. Aunt Bonnie had a small notebook in her purse with passwords and stuff in it. It didn't say secret bank account, but we could tell password was unusual, much more so than one she uses for her cell phone. And it worked. It took a while, but eventually we realized it was right password. They were using same password for both accounts. Jason took control of situation. We already knew they were up to something shady. When we discovered their hidden bank accounts, we got really angry. We wondered if they were dealing pills or embezzling money. Dave was one who came up with the idea of putting money in our accounts. Dave blushed. Actually, I said we can't let Dad and Aunt Bonnie get rich and leave us hanging. We read about dividing assets and divorce, and we didn't like the idea of them keeping half money either. We had accounts set up by powwow, and I thought maybe we should take all money. I thought cops might catch us, but since we were minors and it was our parents' money, we wouldn't get in serious trouble. We thought it might work, so we did it. If we'd known about 80/20th share, we probably wouldn't have taken it. It actually worked out better that way, Dira said regretfully. And then you guys started sending me video and audio files, I said, looking around table. I was at least little relieved to see expression of restraint rather than outright pride. That was hardest part, Jason said quietly. We were really mad at Mom and Uncle Rich for what they were doing to all of us. We didn't want to hurt you and Aunt Sue, but we couldn't do anything, so we sent you that first video. We kept trying to get you to visit Mom and Dad. We knew you were upset. If you pulled weapon out of safe, we would have told you everything. We knew you'd tell Aunt Sue. We kind of moved on. We already moved money that Mom hid. I think we stole it. Well, I know we stole it, but we figured they cheated us, so it was only fair. I hope you and Aunt Sue weren't too upset. I looked at Susan, who had a look of amazement on her face. From the start, I hope you kids never get mad at me and Sue, I said with a smile. But if you ever nail me like you did your mother and Rich, I'll punch you. Loss of life, even if it's with my walker in nursing home. They all chuckled at my threat. You'll never have to worry about that, Daddy, said Diarra. You'll never let family down, We Cajuns stick together. One thing I don't understand, my dad said. You bought cell phone bugs with my credit card. They were awfully expensive. Where did you get money for video cameras? From them. Yeah, they cost about $500 for each camera because they shot full video with sound and had built-in motion and sound detectors. We got 5 of them, replied Jason. Plus another $500 each for hidden transmitter that sent signal to receiver we hooked up to Dara's computer. That's total of $3,500 plus shipping, but we can get half that money back if we return it undamaged. We already pulled all cameras and transmitter. We probably lost cell phone bugs, though. As for credit card, we used Dad's Visa card. I didn't have Visa card, I said. So we do now. I applied for it and forged your signature, said Jason. At least he was honest enough not to look guilty. It has $10,000 limit. We bring in mail every day, so hiding it was easy, added Dira. Cindy and I set up email account pissed off 999. Rob came up with name. He said what Mom and Uncle Rich did made him mad. The kids smiled and nodded, seeing that Susan, Dad, and I were really impressed. So, bugs and cell phones are still active? I asked. Dave nodded. Yes, they work as long as cell phone batteries are charged. Thanks to that and phone location app, we know where they are and what they're doing at all times, said Dave. He was thrilled when he realized they weren't in trouble. If one of them is talking on their cell phone, we can hear it. It's voice activated, so it's a lot of car sounds and business talk. We took turns going through files to pick out anything important. I demanded access to audio recordings. As a result, Susan and I had advanced knowledge of Bonnie and Rich's demands at property division meeting. Bonnie was so eager to get her jewelry that she gave me most of cash and all housewares. We granted some of their requests without much argument, but made them grovel during process. Susan shocked everyone except me when she suggested they walk across town with signs on their heads saying we cheated on our spouses. Alternative was to appeal amount of alimony and child support. I thought Boudreaux's eyes would pop out of his head at that threat. We heard Boudreaux tell them they got off easy on child support payments and warned them Susan and I would likely appeal amounts. Susan eventually recanted, forcing them both to apologize on their knees. I don't know exactly how it happened, and I'm willing to swear on stack of Bibles that I had nothing to do with it, but somehow, 2 months after our hearing, insurance company that Bonnie and Rich worked for found out that he'd rented apartment for Love Nest with company funds. Although everyone in office had gotten bonuses for past 2 years, for some reason, Bonnie had them much higher than usual each year. Rich managed to get big bonuses too. No one ever figured out why. When all this got out, he and Bonnie were fired. No big deal. Company didn't want any publicity. None of videos ever made it to internet. Susan and I couldn't have cared less, and we joked over beers that it would have been fun to make them stars, but kids didn't want to publicly embarrass themselves. We understood their point of view. Bonnie and Rich now live in New Orleans, working for a small shipping company. Since leaving town, they hardly ever visit kids and rarely even call. Last I heard, they're having very difficult time paying child support and alimony. I wish them well. Well, maybe not. Final update. For everyone asking about legal consequences for the kids, there weren't any. Everything they did was technically legal. Installing bugs on phones belonging to their parents, legal. Accessing apartment with copied key, Rich's name was on lease. Moving money under Ujima, completely legal transfers to minor children. Recording conversations in apartment they had access to, one-party consent state. The only questionable thing was forging my signature on credit card application. But since I didn't press charges and they used it for family expenses, nothing came. Jake said he'd never seen anything like it. 5 teenagers conducting surveillance operation that would make FBI proud, complete with financial forensics and evidence preservation. He offered Jason internship at his law firm when he turns 18. The spy equipment, we kept most of it. You never know when family might need protection again. The kids taught us that sometimes you have to be proactive about defending what matters. As for Bonnie and Rich, last update I heard, they're struggling financially in New Orleans. Their careers never recovered after being fired for embezzlement. They see the kids maybe twice a year and rarely call. The kids seem fine with minimal contact. Best part, all 5 kids are closer than ever and have enough money for college from their inheritance. They learned valuable lesson about family loyalty and protecting what matters. Not sure that's a lesson most parents want their kids to learn through espionage, but here we are. Edit. People keep asking if I'm proud of what the kids did. Honestly? Yeah, I am. They saw family being destroyed and took action to protect everyone they cared about. They were smarter, more organized, and more effective than any private investigator we could have hired. They saved us probably $50K in legal fees and got us better outcome than we ever expected. Would I recommend other parents let their teenagers run covert operations? Probably not. But when push came to shove, these kids proved they'd do anything to protect their family. That's not something you can teach. It's just who they are. Family first. Always. That's the Cajun way.